3 weeks ago, I was in my clinic when a 74-year-old woman froze mid-sentence. Her chest lifted, her eyes widened, and for 3 long seconds, her breath simply stopped. No choking, no pain, just a frightening stillness, until she used one tiny trick that instantly restarted airflow like flipping a switch. I'm Dr. Howard Tucker, longevity doctor for over 7 decades, and today I'm sitting down with Japan's own legend, Dr. Shigaki Hinohara, a physician who has guided seniors for over a century. Together, we're breaking down why these sudden breath pauses happen after 60, what they really mean, and the simple technique every senior should know to get air moving again. Don't worry, we'll show you exactly how it works, but not yet. Stay with us because the explanation will change how you think about breathing forever. Doctor, when that woman froze in front of me, it shook her to the core. She told me afterwards she felt like her body vanished for those 3 seconds, but I see this more often than people think. Seniors over 60 suddenly feel their breath pause. It's not choking, it's not asthma, it's something different, and most people don't know what to do when it happens. So I want to start right there. What are these strange breath freezes we're seeing more and more in older adults?
These are small interruptions in the brain's breathing rhythm. They are brief, silent, and terrifying because they feel unnatural. After 60, the communication between the diaphragm and the brainstem can become delayed. Not broken, just delayed. And during that delay, the body pauses. It waits. It tries to restart. These moments feel like danger, but they are actually signals. Signals that the respiratory system needs support.
That's the key, isn't it? People think something catastrophic is happening. They think they're suffocating. But what you're saying is their body hasn't failed. It has hesitated. And if you know what to do in that moment, you can get the breath moving again safely. I've seen seniors panic and hold tension, which only makes the pause worse.
Yes. Panic freezes the diaphragm even more. The diaphragm is a muscle that depends on relaxation to reopen. When fear arrives, the chest stiffens, the throat tightens, the breath cannot restart easily. But when the body is given the right physical cue, the diaphragm unlocks almost instantly. This is why one small technique can bring the breath back.
And that's what we're building toward today. Not fear, not confusion, but clarity. Because once someone understands what causes these pauses, they stop panicking, they start responding, and the technique becomes powerful.
Exactly. Understanding turns fear into control. Seniors who learn this no longer feel helpless when their breath stops, they feel prepared. And preparation is what protects them.
Before we reveal the technique, I want people to understand where these pauses come from. They're not random. They're not age punishing you. They have a root cause. And doctor, I want us to go there next, because when people understand the mechanics, the solution makes perfect sense. Doctor, let's get straight into the heart of it. When a senior suddenly loses their breath for 3 seconds, what's actually happening under the surface? Because it feels dramatic. But the body rarely acts without a reason.
The reason is usually simple. After 60, the diaphragm doesn't respond as quickly as it used to. The nervous system sends the signal to inhale, but the diaphragm hesitates. It's like a delay in the body's internal wiring, a micro pause. The breath waits rather than flows.
And that delay feels frightening because breathing isn't something we think about. It's automatic. So when it suddenly stops, even briefly, it shakes people deeply.
Yes, the shock comes from the silence, no wheeze, no tight chest, just a pause. And this pause comes from what we call a misfire in the respiratory drive. The brain says breathe, but the muscles say not yet.
I've also noticed that many seniors who experience this are dealing with stress, or poor sleep, or shallow breathing during the day. Their respiratory muscles are already tired before the pause even happens.
Exactly. Years of chest breathing instead of belly breathing weakens the diaphragm. Sitting for long hours stiffens the rib cage, and anxiety tightens the throat without the person even noticing. All of these create the perfect conditions for a breath freeze.
And the fear afterward only makes the next pause more likely, right? Because anxiety tightens the muscles even more.
Yes. Fear teaches the body to brace, and a braced body cannot breathe well. When the chest rises too high or the shoulders tense, the breathing cycle becomes unstable. Senior lungs do not like tension. They like space.
That explains why so many describe the episode the same way. My chest lifted, but no air came in. It's not the lungs failing. It's the muscles locking.
Exactly. And the good news is, muscles respond quickly when given the right cue. Seniors don't need strength. They need release. The moment the diaphragm is reminded how to relax and open, the breath returns.
So these pauses aren't a sign of something irreversible. They're a sign the body needs guidance. Senior bodies adapt beautifully when shown the right movement.
Yes. And that is the purpose of today's technique. It's not forceful. It doesn't require effort. It teaches the diaphragm to unlock itself almost instantly, even during the freeze.
And we'll get into that technique soon. But before we do, I want to talk about something most people never hear from their doctors. Because the way seniors breathe changes after 60, subtly, but significantly. And understanding that change is the key to understanding the solution.
I agree. And once people hear this next part, the entire trick will suddenly make sense.
Doctor, let's break down the part almost no one talks about. Breathing after 60 isn't the same as breathing at 30 or 40. The mechanics change. The response time changes. And if seniors don't understand those changes, these breath pauses feel like mysteries.
Yes. After 60, three major shifts happen. The diaphragm becomes less elastic, the ribcage becomes stiffer, and the brain's breathing signal becomes slower. Not weaker, just slower. These three changes combine to create that moment of hesitation.
And most seniors don't notice this shift until something frightening happens. A sudden pause, a stuck inhale, a tight throat, something that feels out of character.
Exactly. And because breathing is automatic, people assume something dangerous is happening. But in reality, it is the natural aging of the respiratory system asking for support. The body is not shutting down, it is adapting.
I often tell my patients the same thing. Your lungs didn't forget you. They just want to clear a signal. And once they understand that, the fear softens immediately.
That's because the diaphragm thrives on clarity. If the brain's signal is delayed, even for a second, the diaphragm stalls. And if the diaphragm doesn't move, the lungs cannot fill. It looks dramatic, but inside the body, it is simply a delay, not a failure.
And this becomes more common in seniors who sit a lot, breathe mainly from the chest, or tighten their shoulders during stress. I see that pattern over and over.
Yes, modern habits train the diaphragm to stay quiet. Posture collapses inward. Breathing becomes shallow. The chest rises instead of the belly. Over decades, this creates a breathing system that is ready to pause anytime it encounters tension.
And when that pause hits, people react with panic. The shoulders lift even higher. The throat closes. The diaphragm locks even tighter. And suddenly what should have been a 3-second reset becomes a terrifying experience.
Absolutely. Panic is the enemy of breathing. Seniors must learn to interrupt the panic, not the breath. When they do, the diaphragm reopens naturally.
That brings us to the solution you're about to share. Because most people think they need to inhale harder. They think they need to force the breath, but that only makes everything worse.
Correct. The secret is not to inhale, is to release. The diaphragm needs space, not force. And the technique we'll explain soon creates exactly that space. It reactivates the nerve reflex that restarts the breathing cycle almost instantly.
And once seniors understand how breathing changes with age, the technique isn't just a trick. It becomes logical, predictable, reliable.
And that reliability is what restores confidence. Once a senior learns this method, they stop fearing those breath pauses. They know exactly what to do the moment it happens.
That's the transformation we want today. Knowledge that becomes power, understanding that becomes calm, and a technique that becomes second nature.
And we are ready to teach it. But before we do, there is one more thing people need to hear. When these breath freezes happen, the body gives a very specific warning sign, and recognizing that sign is the key to using the technique correctly.
Doctor, before a breath pause hits, there's almost always a signal. Seniors often tell me they feel something off a second or two before the freeze. I want us to talk about those cues because knowing them changes everything.
Yes, the body always whispers before it pauses. The first sign is a tiny lift in the chest without airflow. It feels like the body is preparing to inhale, but nothing comes in. A moment of emptiness.
I've heard patients describe it as a half breath or an inhale that gets stuck just before it starts. It's subtle, but you can feel it if you pay attention.
Exactly. The second sign is throat tension. Not pain, not choking, just a slight tightening, like someone lightly touching the inside of the airway. Seniors often mistake this for anxiety, but it is actually the diaphragm delaying its movement.
And then there's the third signal, the stillness. The body freezes for a second. The shoulders stop moving. The ribs stop expanding. Everything becomes quiet, too quiet.
Yes, that quiet is the most important cue. It means the diaphragm has not responded yet and the brain is waiting for its return signal. If the body remains tense, the pause continues. If the body releases, the diaphragm unlocks.
And that's exactly why your technique works. It interrupts the tension before it builds into panic. It gives the diaphragm a gentle cue to start moving again.
Correct. Seniors need to learn to respond at the first sign. The stuck inhale, the throat tightening, or the sudden stillness. These signals are invitations. The body is saying, "Help me reset before panic arrives."
I love that framing. The body isn't failing. It's asking. And when seniors recognize the request, they can act instead of freeze.
Yes. And when they act early, the breathing cycle restarts instantly. The pause lasts seconds instead of becoming a frightening incident. This changes the entire experience.
And once a senior experiences that feeling of I know what to do, the fear disappears, confidence returns. That's what we want today.
And we are ready now. The signals have been explained. The fear has been softened. Now the technique can be understood clearly, safely, and practiced correctly.
Perfect. Then let's move into the moment everyone is waiting for. Doctor, walk us through the technique seniors can use the second their breath stops. Doctor, this is the moment everyone has been waiting for. When a senior's breath pauses for those 3 seconds, what exactly should they do? Not panic, not force a breath, but the one movement that truly works.
The technique is very gentle. It begins with releasing the diaphragm, not controlling it. Seniors think they need to inhale harder, but that is the one thing they must not do. Forced breathing tightens the throat and locks the chest even more.
So the trick doesn't start with the lungs at all. It starts with the belly.
Exactly. Place one hand lightly on the lower abdomen and soften the belly. That softening is the signal. When the belly releases, the diaphragm releases, and a released diaphragm restarts the breathing cycle almost automatically.
And this works even during the freeze, even when the breath feels stuck.
Yes. Especially then. When the body freezes, we interrupt the freeze by lowering the shoulders, relaxing the jaw, and letting the belly drop slightly outward. Not pushing, just letting it expand naturally. This gives the diaphragm space.
So instead of pulling in air, the senior cues the body to open up from the inside.
Correct. The inhale returns the moment the diaphragm has room to move. It's a reflex. Seniors don't need to chase the breath. They need to invite it back.
Many seniors tell me when they try to inhale during the freeze, everything feels tighter. This explains why. They're using force instead of release.
Yes. Force triggers tension. Tension blocks breathing. But release unlocks it. And if someone still feels stuck, there is one more piece that completes the technique.
The chest rock, right? The tiny forward-back movement.
Yes, a gentle miniature rocking of the upper body. Just a few millimeters, the rocking stimulates the vagus nerve and signals the diaphragm to restart its movement. Combined with the soft belly, the breath returns in 1 or 2 seconds.
I've seen seniors go from panic to relief almost instantly when they do this. Their eyes widen. Their shoulders drop. and the breath suddenly flows again.
Exactly. And once they feel that success, the fear of the next pause disappears. Confidence replaces panic, and the breathing cycle stabilizes.
The beauty of this technique is how simple it is. No equipment, no strength, just awareness and release. Seniors can use it anywhere, standing, sitting, lying down.
And the more they practice during calm moments, the easier it becomes during a freeze. The body learns. The diaphragm remembers. The nervous system obeys your signal.
This is powerful, a real tool seniors can use in seconds. But now I want to go deeper, because sometimes these pauses happen more often than they should, and seniors deserve to know why.
Yes. And the reasons are important because they reveal how to prevent these episodes from happening in the first place.
Doctor, let's talk about the part that worries seniors the most. When these breath pauses start happening more often. Once a month becomes once a week. Once a week becomes every few days. What makes the body slip into this pattern?
Frequency increases when the respiratory system becomes overstimulated or underused. Stress keeps the chest tight. Long sitting hours weaken the diaphragm. Poor sleep disrupts the brainstem's timing. Over time, these small issues stack up and create a breathing system that hesitates more easily.
So it's not a single cause. It's layers, old habits, old tension, old posture patterns that slowly reshape how the body breathes.
Exactly. And the diaphragm is sensitive. If it doesn't move fully every day, it forgets its rhythm. The lungs then rely more on shallow chest breathing. That shallow pattern increases the likelihood of pauses.
I've noticed seniors who spend hours in recliners or soft couches tend to experience more of these episodes. Their bodies fold forward, their ribs compress, their breath becomes tiny, without them realizing it.
Yes, the posture dictates the breath. When the ribs collapse inward, the diaphragm cannot expand downward. The brain senses resistance and delays the signal. That delay becomes the breath freeze.
It's incredible how the body tells the truth, even when we ignore the signs. A stiff rib cage, a tense throat, a slumped spine, all quiet warnings that the pause is coming.
And thankfully, all reversible. The body responds quickly when given the right environment. A small amount of daily belly breathing, gentle posture adjustments, a few minutes lying flat to open the ribs. These help restore the rhythm.
And of course, the technique we shared earlier becomes even more effective when seniors practice it during calm moments, not just emergencies.
Yes. Practice builds familiarity. Familiarity becomes confidence, and confidence reduces the stress that triggers the pauses. It becomes a protective cycle instead of a fearful one.
I've seen seniors go from having breath freezes several times a week to not having a single episode for months, simply by learning how to relax their breathing system.
That's the power of awareness. Breathing pauses happen more often when people feel rushed or overwhelmed. When they slow down, the breathing system follows.
So for anyone listening, you're not stuck with this. Your body isn't failing. It's asking for balance. And when you give it that balance, the pauses fade.
Yes, and there is one more thing seniors should understand before we close. These breath pauses rarely come without emotional weight. People fear them. They think they mean danger. But with the right knowledge, that fear dissolves.
That's a perfect bridge to the final section, because once fear is replaced with understanding, the entire experience changes. And I want us to end on that hopeful note. Doctor, I think today shifted something important for a lot of people. Seniors who once froze in fear now understand their bodies weren't failing. They were signaling. And when you learn the signal, you learn the solution.
Yes. And once a senior feels the breath return because of something they did, the fear loses its grip. That confidence changes how they move, how they sleep, how they trust their own body again.
I've watched it happen with patient after patient. Someone who once panicked during a breath pause suddenly responds calmly. Their shoulders drop, their belly softens, the breath returns, and they realize they are not helpless.
That moment is powerful because strength after 60 is not just in the muscles. It is in knowing your body still listens to you, still responds, still adapts.
And what we shared today wasn't a trick. It was reconnection, the diaphragm waking up, the nervous system remembering its rhythm, the body proving it still has more life, more intelligence, more resilience than anyone gives it credit for.
Exactly. And the more someone practices this technique, the less likely those pauses become. The body learns quickly when it feels safe. And what surprises many seniors is how deeply the breath shapes everything else.
Yes, I've seen balance improve, sleep deepen, anxiety soften, all because breathing became smoother, more predictable, more stable. When the breath stabilizes, the whole body follows.
And that is the real message today. Breathing is not just survival, it is communication. When the breath pauses, it is asking for space. When the breath returns, it is showing you the path back to stability.
I hope everyone listening felt that shift, because understanding your own breath is one of the most powerful gifts you can carry into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond.
And this is only the beginning. Breath freezes are one part of the story. There are deeper patterns hidden inside how seniors breathe each day. Patterns that reveal far more than people realize.
And that's where we're heading next. There's a breathing sign many seniors overlook, one that shows up hours before the pause ever happens. A sign that predicts the problem long before the breath freezes.
Yes, and once you recognize it, you can stop the entire cycle before it even begins.